Show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings and, of course, to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Welcome. Good morning to you. Happy Thursday, or whatever day you're listening to this. We have a special guest today, Becky. We're going to start introducing her, but I appreciate everybody coming out today and listening to our podcast episode today. I hope you get a ton of value today, and we'll see where this episode goes. There we go. Here's my guest, Becky. I'm sorry about that. From New York.
Yep, that's fine. Listen, my real name's Rebecca, so I've gotten Becca, I've gotten Rebecca, I've gotten Becca, and every other version of my name, so not a problem.
So I'm really particular about names because your name is like the most powerful asset you have, and if you take it forever, you can take it with you forever, and it really amplifies what you do. So I really try and be intentional about people's names, so I apologize, but I hope you understand that.
No, I'm sure you probably get that with Daniel all the time too, right? People calling you like Danny, Dan, kind of changing that up on you. So no, not a problem at all.
Okay. So we're going to hop right into it. So Becky from New York is a lady landlord, and she has an amazing group, Lady Landlords, and she helps educate people and women on real estate investing and landlording, which is an amazing feat in itself because as everybody loves women. I don't know. I've never had like a woman like specific guest like this, so this is the first for me. So I might be out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's just one of those things where like there's so many smart, powerful women that do amazing things, and it's interesting to have this conversation. So I appreciate you for coming on, and I appreciate you for giving up your time. Let's kind of dive into real estate. So how long have you been in real estate?
So I only got started in real estate back in 2018. So
Really?
I'm still, yes. And it was something I never planned on getting involved in real estate investing, but yet here we are.
I think and this is a side note, but has COVID really like capitalized and accelerated your growth in general? Because I feel like it helped a lot of people during the lockdowns and stuff.
I wouldn't say that it necessarily like helped me in that sense. I think what it did was there were just certain opportunities of properties that I was actually able to pick up during that time, right? March 2020, at least where I'm in New York, halfway through the month, all of a sudden everything was canceled. Everybody was quarantined. Here in New York, you actually couldn't even go see a house. You had to, they canceled all open houses. Then eventually by April, May, they allowed, if you had an accepted offer, that you had to get the accepted offer first. Then you were able to go see the house for the first time. So it really kind of changed the way people were doing business. But it was at that time that I just kind of decided, hey, listen, this might be a good opportunity zone for us. While everybody else is trapped, everybody else is living under a rock, people are afraid to kind of go outside. And also a lot of people didn't think that their houses would sell, right? I think everybody thought that the whole housing market would crash. But yet, so I feel like prices, like I was able to pick up some of my best rentals during that. Nobody else wanted to figure out what could they do, what could they see, what was going on with tenants that weren't paying, eviction moratoriums, all that. I was actually able to pick up some really great deals.
I think everybody knows the statement. It's I forget his name, but the famous trader is be greedy when everybody's fearful and fearful when everybody's greedy. So you really capitalize on the situation when everybody's fearful. Right. There's opportunity out there. And I think it's coming up again. I think the opportunity is coming up again for sure. People are getting fearful again.
People are getting like really freaked out right now. So I was talking to somebody about this the other day where I felt like that, we've talked about the pandemic, right? And people were like, oh, well, there's a pandemic, there's an eviction moratorium. I can't buy houses right now. Okay. Well, that was 2020. 2021, they said, oh my God, well, housing prices are really high. The housing market is too expensive right now. So they didn't buy. Now, oh, well, now interest rates are too high in 2022. So now they didn't buy. So you have all these people that now it's been like years. And like, what are you doing, guys? Like, get out there, figure out a way to make it work and get creative rather than just waiting for, the skies to open up and to have some sign that like now is the exact perfect time to be able to buy a house. Like there's always going to be something wrong. There's going to always be something going on in the economy that might not make today the best day to buy a house. But you know what? There's 1,000 other reasons that it could be a great day to buy a house.
No, I'm really glad you hit on that because it's there's so much, there's like limitless opportunity where most people think like, I can't buy a house right now. There's this thing that's preventing me. I'm like, there's so much opportunity out there. There's so many houses. There's so much, just everything. There's so much everything. You just got to open your eyes to it and see the opportunity in front of you. So one thing I really want to hit on is I really want to jump back to COVID because that's so crazy. I didn't know that they stopped viewings and everything. That's insane to me.
You couldn't. I remember so it was actually about 2 months in New York that realtors just could not show houses. Like and then when they finally allowed that you could, you had to like I said, you had to have an accepted offer to be able to go and actually go into that house, right? And you had to wear gloves and you had to wear a mask and you had to put on booties. Like it was like, and you had to sign all the paperwork and you had realtors, giving you like a temperature check. But I remember I saw a house on the market. It came on the market on like a Sunday, and Monday was when they were actually lifting restrictions that you could still do that you could finally do an open house again in New York. You didn't have to have the accepted offer, but you had to register. You had to you had to be pre-approved, but pre-approved for the open house. Like you had to actually book like a reserved time slot.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't really like give like much organization to what this was going to be like, but I saw this house and I was like, I want this house. It's like exactly what I was looking for a rental property. It was perfect. The numbers just were great. So my husband couldn't go. My realtor couldn't go. So, because it was literally last minute. So the next day I drove upstate New York, and I'm a New York kid. Like we don't really drive. That's not our thing. So me driving like upstate, like on a highway for an hour was like a completely nerve-wracking experience. So I get up there and they didn't actually hold like the reservation time slots. They made you wait in a line 6 feet apart. And then the realtor took one person in at a time to go view the property. So I'm waiting in line and I was pretty early because I hate being late for anything. So I got online early and I'm talking to like a couple of the people next to me. And I realize I am the only woman in this entire line of now investors coming to this property. And it's just gentleman after gentleman after gentleman. I'm in the middle there. The realtor was actually a woman. And I remember when we went inside the property, I'd asked her a question because they had those split level heating, air conditioning systems.
Yeah.
And that's just not something that's very common where I live. So I'd asked her a question about that. And she gave me this like snarky remark of like, didn't you read like the realtor's comments? And I was like, I'm not a realtor. Like, what are you talking about? Like it was just so rude. So I remember when actually I got the property, and a couple of weeks later when we were doing the inspection, she actually came by to apologize to me because she didn't realize that I was the buyer. She thought that I was somebody's secretary sent out. And I'm like, you are another woman. And your first assumption was that I had to be somebody's secretary or like admin. I did not invite her to Lady Landlords, let me tell you that. But it was just really interesting just to still see, that there were some places that, I'm sometimes still the only woman in the room. But then even to have another woman just assume, but I will never forget how rude she was to me on that showing. The whole time she was showing me the property, I was like, if this property was not going to be a really good rental property, I would not buy it from this woman.
That's crazy. That's such a fitting story because you aren't seen as that normal buyer side in that transaction. So it's definitely fitting. I'm really glad you showed her.
I did. Well, and I was the only woman. I was also probably younger by about 20 years than most people that were there. I'm Hispanic, so that also kind of stood out in the line of people, you know. So it was just really interesting to still see how, you know, not everybody is always represented and at the table still these days. So it's really nice to be able, for those of us that can, to get out there and show our faces.
I'm really glad you said. So, is there other times where you've had to like really step out of your comfort zone to like, hey, I'm the buyer here in this opportunity. Like, let's
I got you. I'll
like
tell you
so
another story.
because these are really great because I feel like women are seen as like passive and they're not really seen as the aggressor. But sometimes in you're buying real estate, you have to be seen as the aggressor to get what you need done, like with handling title issues and all this, dealing with agents and stuff like that. You have to do what you need to do to get stuff done sometimes.
So I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me or the Aquarius in me, but I don't think most people would ever call me shy or passive. I remember the first property I was looking to buy. I was trying to find, you know, what lender I wanted to work with, what realtor at the time. I was interviewing a ton of realtors to be able to work with. And I remember this one guy that I spoke to actually asked me if I had a partner or I was married. And I was engaged at the time. So I said, you know, I'm engaged. And he was just like, oh, okay, well, do you want to have like your fiance call me then so we could talk numbers? And I was like, why is that? And he goes, well, you know, women are usually just only interested in how pretty the kitchen and how pretty the kitchen and the bathrooms look like. And I was just like, did you just say that out loud? And he was like, what? I'm like, did you say that out loud to a woman that called you to buy a house from you? And he was like, and I'm like, great, we're done. Thank you very much. And I just hung up the phone. But it was, you know, it's interesting because, you know, my husband and I, we're now married, but to be honest, he's usually the one that's like, oh, the kitchen looks really nice, I think we should buy it. And I'm like, no, the numbers don't make sense. We're not buying it. So it's just interesting to see kind of what roles you play. But I've definitely had that. Or there's been times, luckily I found actually the best realtor in the world here in New York. He's become like just a really, really good friend of mine. He actually came to my wedding. I consider him like one of my best friends. But, you know, it takes some time to find the right team members and to find the right people to be able to work with. It's not as easy as just, you know, I'll date myself here. It's not like you could just call somebody out of the yellow pages and find the right person to work with. You know, not all realtors, not all mortgage lenders are created equally. You really do have to find a good fit for you and for how you like to work.
100%. So I'm really digging into this because, like, you as a landlord are as in a position of power too, and you probably get the same disregard all the time too from your tenants. Do you have property management? Or you self? Not so much.
No,
are you
we manage all of our properties. We self-manage all of our properties.
Okay.
I actually don't. I feel like what's really important and what's helped me, even with the way that I work with my real estate team, right? My lender, my attorney, my title company. I think I've set my expectations very clear up from the beginning, not only with my team, but also with my tenants and what I expect. So I really actually feel that I am not a person that necessarily gets pushed around too much because I'm able to make those expectations clear. I have very clear guidelines for how my tenants can reach out to me, how they communicate with me, what my response time will be like with them. I put all of those boundaries in place from the start, and I think that makes it clear. Also, when I bring on a new service provider, when I work with a new title company or a new attorney, and once again, the ones that I have now, I absolutely love. But when I was looking for really the right people, I had a conversation with them before I hired them of what I look for, how I work, and what I really expect. And I think that's made things a little bit easier. Honestly, I feel like more people like fear working with me than feel that I'm a pushover. So I think I kind of ended up on the other side.
No, I'm really glad you said proper expectations because I really want people to get some value from that. Is that setting the proper expectations always make sure that everyone understands what's being done, what's going to be done, how everything's going to be done. Like if you have a work order, this is the process you go through. You don't call me.
Correct. You know, or like, you know, I've had a couple of situations where I've had tenants kind of call me. I had one, her oven was not like turning off, right? She'd cook something. She turned the dial to off, but it was not turned off. The oven was still on, clearly, you know, still gas, and we have gas ovens, right? So this whole situation is kind of going on, and I was just like, okay, great. Like, is the fire department on its way? And she's like, no, I figured you would just come and handle it. And I'm like, okay, hang up the phone, call 911. Then you call me. Like, call 911 first if there is fire, if you smell gas. Like that's something that really a fire department is going to be a little bit more able to handle a fire than little old Becky over here, right? So once again, it's just making sure that like up front that I make it very clear in my lease what situations you call me for, what situations you call 911 for, and what is kind of that order like look like. And since then, you know, when you lay things out, it just really makes the whole situation much more smooth.
So I have a really good question for you, and it's some people have different answers for this, but how do you deal with troubled tenants? Because a lot of people, I'm not a good landlord because I'm too like I feel for my tenants in some way. So it's one of those things like, I hate being this person, but like how do you deal with troubled tenants? Because it's hard sometimes if you have if you're not like if you care about people, you know, it's like it's really hard to kick people out and do what you need to do.
There's a balance, right? Like I care about my tenants. My tenants they're my clients, right? Like we are I think one thing that people don't think about is that actually being a landlord is really being a customer service business, right? I am there to make sure that my tenants have a clean, safe home. That's really my role, right? So, you know, a lot of landlords get like upset when they get like phone calls about like this or that. But if something needs to be fixed, if things need to be taken care of, like that's really what our role is. So when you say troubled tenants, to me, I feel like those are two different situations, right? There's a difference between, hey, I lost my job because of a worldwide pandemic that has not occurred in, you know, hundreds of years and I can't work, versus, hey, I decided to go on vacation and I don't want to pay you your money this month. You know, I think those are two very, very different situations, right? And those two need to be treated with a different response. So same thing, back to 2020, in March of 2020, when New York City shut down, I messaged all of our tenants and said, hey, we don't know what this thing's going to look like. We don't know how long things are going to be shut down. You know, just communicate with us. Let us know what's kind of going on in your situation, and we can make sure to kind of put something in place depending on what's going on in your situation. And my tenants wrote me back automatically, like, you know, hey, thank you. That's really nice. Like, we really appreciate you, like, asking, being concerned about us. One guy automatically said, I'm not going to be able to pay April's rent because I'm not now working the last 2 weeks of March. And he was in a kind of a paycheck to paycheck situation. So we were able to really talk and work out a plan with him. I had all of my tenants pay outside of that one person throughout the entire pandemic. And that one person, when he got stimulus check, when he got his unemployment check, he paid us back every single penny he owed us because we had open lines of communication, right?
That's amazing.
If a tenant, on the other hand, and we've had this, you know, I've gone to court multiple times with tenants. We had a tenant, she told us like a few days before Thanksgiving, she was on a month-to-month lease. She said, hey, I'm moving out in 10 days, right? And you got Thanksgiving in the middle there, right? So I was just like, okay, you know, thank you for letting me know you're on a month-to-month lease, which means you need to tell us 30 days before the start of the month, which means you're still responsible for December's rent. And she said, no, I'm not responsible for that. I said, yes, you are. I sent her a copy of the forms that she had signed, and she still was like, well, I'm not paying that. And I said, great, you have two choices. You can either pay, and I gave her options. You know, you put her on a payment plan. I gave her an option for a credit card. You know, here are those options, and then we could be done with this by the end of the year. Or you're going to be seeing me all year in 2022 because we're going to be in court. I'm going to be at your job garnishing your wages. We're now going to have to follow this up. You're going to have to see your ex-husband because you kicked him out, but now he's on the lease, which means you're going to have to see your ex-husband over in small claims court. Yep. So this is your choice. It is your choice to meet the obligations that you agreed to, or it's not. And in that situation, I'm sorry, I don't really feel bad.
Yeah.
Right? When somebody is doing something wrong to me, that's really on them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I learned a lot. The first time I went to court to evict somebody. Yeah. I was was wholesaling a property and he didn't want to deal with it. So I'm like, here, sign this paperwork saying I have the right to evict this person, and I'll go do it. So I went through the process of evicting them, and it was interesting. It was very, very interesting. But like I helped them move out. I trashed out the property. Like it was one of those things. Like I really tried to like
help them. But that's also okay if like this person had like the house being sold out from underneath him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you really have to look at everybody's individual situation and see where we can help. And once again, we are in the business of being human. But you have to kind of be able to balance that between where is this a business versus where is this a charity. And I would love to have a house that I could just let people live there for free because I'm a good millionaire and can do that. But I'm not in that financial position right now where I could just give away free housing.
It's an interesting dynamic, and I think part of the like hard part was landlording is like the situation I helped that owner out of with their tenants. It was actually family members that were abusing. Were using their own family member. So it was one of those things where, like, they didn't want to deal with their own family member, so they're like, help me, please. So I'm like, okay.
And that's a whole different. You talked about family members, right? Now all of a sudden, like renting to family, doing business with family, that's a whole nother realm.
Another can of worms. Is there like strict no-nos, like especially like that you will like? I would never.
Don't work with family.
Yes.
Yes. Are like other strict things that I say no to?
Yeah, like if you're let's say you're looking at, and I've seen a lot of this on TikTok. Like, are you dating somebody? Are they going to sign the lease and they lie to you and then try and move in after? Like, is there like ways to filter out potential bad clients that you like? I've seen this trick before. I'm not going to fall for it again.
I think definitely, like, I mean, over time, like if I look back to like the first property that I bought versus now, like we're actually closing on our 7th tomorrow. There's so many things that like, it's just funny now that like I'll say and be like, oh man, like there's no way I would do that. But meanwhile, I don't even know that thing even existed when I bought the first property. So it is interesting to see like how you've kind of like refined what you look for, what your preferences are, what you like, what you don't like. For example, the property that we had that we're closing on tomorrow, the town was not able to get us, we're closing on Friday. The town is not able to get us the final water bill until Monday. So, okay, we'll just put some money in escrow, right? That's the easy response to that. So we don't have to, and we're dealing with a rate lock issue. Clearly interest rates have gone up, so I don't want to have to deal with that. So, the first thing that, like, when I heard water bill and money in escrow, I called my attorney automatically. The reason for that is because there was a previous situation on the first property I bought that the title company missed a $7,000 water bill. So then that took some time to get sorted out, right? And the title company did pay for that, but they missed it. And it was weeks of a headache of what am I going to do with the $7,000 water bill that then became a lien on my taxes. And I'm like, I've owned a home for like 2 days. What do you mean I owe an extra $7,000 in taxes, right? So so I already didn't like when I hear the word water bill, that kind of gives me like, goosebumps here. And then the second was money in escrow. I bought a property back in 2019 and I bought a property it's a 4-family and a parking lot here in New York. So parking is a big thing for us. Okay. And I bought it from this elderly couple that were, to be in all honesty, they were absolute hoarders. They had something we would call garbage. They would call their precious commodities all over every single inch of this property. So they also needed to stay in their apartment in one of the units after we closed on the house. So we rented back to them. They had to meet certain conditions about still cleaning up the property after we had closed. So there was a lot of money in escrow. Mm-hmm. We ended up having to go to court to get that money out of escrow. And it took us years before we were actually able to get our check. So to me, when I heard water bill and money in escrow, I automatically am like, no, we are rescheduling this closing. Screw it. Like I'm not dealing with those two situations. So it was just something that like, just once again, it brought up, I said to my attorney, I was just like, I just have like PTSD when I hear like water bill and anything with escrow, because those were two horrible situations. This was nothing like it. Here we're talking like $300, and a water bill being paid or not paid is a little bit turn your key for escrow rather than the previous situation I was in. So so it was just
it's just your experience talking,
right, exactly. But it was just like, okay, well, how else can we kind of get through this? But so there are certain things that, like, my husband and I, we were like, no, after that court case with that money in escrow that took us years, we were like, that's it. We're never putting money in escrow. We were told it was so easy to get the money from escrow, and that was so wrong. But now in the end, know the full process, and we probably will not come across a 3-year legal battle for money in escrow again.
I hope people see I hope people see that one. That's a good one. It's a good little tidbit. I mean, one thing about real estate is, like, every deal you do, there's another curveball you gotta face in some way.
Yeah, every property is completely different. It has its complete set of different challenges. It's completely different every single time, right? But when you go through it, you're right. Like, you pick up these little things from experience that make things easier. And then what else do you got to learn here? What else can you learn there? And it definitely gives you the availability to problem solve. I think that's really what being a real estate investor is it's just being really good at solving problems and coming up with solutions.
That's it right there. What is let's kind of pivot a little bit towards your Facebook group. What's the main goal of your Facebook group? What kind of information you're providing there? What does that look like to you?
Sure. So Lady Landlords helps women that are looking to reach financial freedom through real estate investing. And we help women in 3 different ways. We help them figure out how to get started in real estate investing, how to then manage their tenants, and then also how to be able to grow their portfolio. So we provide different workshops, webinars, online courses to really help make sure that women have the confidence that they need to be able to be great problem solvers as real estate investors.
Ooh. It's such underrated, like, niche to be in, because it's like you really, there's a whole section and sector of investors out there that they need that assistance in a lot of different ways, and they need that experience that you've gone through. Like, hey, what do I do with the situation? Like, you do this, and this, and this will happen.
Right. Like, really I always explain to people, Lady Landlords, like, we're not anti-men in any way. As I mentioned, my realtor, who's one of my best friends, is a man, right? My husband's a man. Like, I like these people, but on most occasions. But really, what the goal of Lady Landlords is to make sure that, like, women really have that confidence to be able, if they need to walk into a room of men that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, that they can really be able to hold their own and feel comfortable with that, and to feel comfortable making the decisions that they need to within their own real estate portfolio.
It's definitely a overwhelming thing if you haven't had that experience. So it's something that having somebody in your corner to, hey, this is what you do, that'll definitely help you carry it through 100%.
Yeah, I feel like we're your little secret, like, back pocket, right? Like, people come to Lady Landlords, ask a couple questions. Hey, this is going on with my tenant. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? They come, we talk about the situation in the group. Then they can go out and they go back to their tenant and they can just be like, yup, this is how it needs to be done. Right?
Community is such an amazing asset. Such an amazing asset. So for everybody listening, please go follow Lady Landlords Facebook group. I am a big fan of community, and it's one of those things where, like, if you don't have community or people like you that are going through the same situations as you feel overwhelmed, and you almost can feel alone, and it puts you in a state of depression because you don't have anybody to count on 100%.
Right. And I mean, I started the group in March of 2020 for a very good purpose. Right?
Yeah. I could say you're definitely making an impact, and impact is priceless. And it's cool to see, and I know you're the leader of this, and I have community too in my group too. It's cool to see community leaders help other communities. So it's like, you're not physically having to do it anymore, but there's people that understand the mission and understand the goal, that they're just doing it for you.
Right. Like, to me, it was different when we were much smaller, right? Lady Landlords now has 30,000 women in the community. So when somebody posts a question or asks for help, to me, it's just so beautiful to see literally just get, like, hundreds of responses of other women helping someone kind of walk them through that situation. that's sometimes like I don't know. I don't have kids, but like I just feel like, like a proud
Proud.
parent
It's
that
a
can just
proud
like sit back and just like watch like my children like take care of each other. Like that's how I feel in the group. It's really nice.
It's a proud moment. It's like it brings
Yeah.
a tear to your eye.
I know. But it's really nice. It's really just great. Like you said, it's great to see from like a community because, real estate investing, we tend to be on our own, right? Nobody learned how to invest in college. I know at least where I went, they weren't teaching real estate investing. So it's something that like we really are all people that are looking to kind of learn this new skill later on in our lives. And, there's not a lot of direction, guidance, and there's a ton of different, my favorite thing about real estate investing is there's thousands of possibilities of what we can really do in this industry, but that could also be really overwhelming. So it's so nice to be able to talk to people that have like been there, done that can just kind of make that learning curve for you a little bit easier.
Yep. I appreciate you providing that to the community. Like my big thing, and this is something I say, is that I help people that help people, and that's my whole thing.
Yeah.
If we're all helping people, that we're all making a difference together, one person at a time.
Right. And if we all have that mentality, it would be a much nicer, kinder world. But here's where we are.
What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Oh, so my favorite quote. Unfortunately, I have to give credit. So I have two favorite quotes. The one that I usually always talk about with real estate investing, I'm going to have to actually give credit to Nike. Just do it.
Okay.
Right? Or whoever wrote that slogan, because I feel like real estate investors, we get stuck in analysis paralysis, and we get stuck, like I mentioned, like we were talking about at the beginning of the call, right? Oh, there's a pandemic. Oh, interest rates are too high. Oh, prices are too high this year. Maybe next year. Maybe the market will crash, right? But what I find really important and what I find interesting is when you ask any real estate investor, like what they wish they had known about real estate investing, at the beginning, they always say, I wish I got started sooner, right? So that the concept of really just like going out, taking action, and actually making a difference in your life today, not tomorrow, not the next day, but today, really just resonates with me.
That's it, man. I tell people all the time is like what separates everybody else from 99% of the people is that people that they just do something. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to do a lot of it. They just do something. They're then creating something, which is 90% of the world is consumer. So if you create any little bit of thing, you're already a step above everybody else, and you're already moving forward. And then from there, it's just being consistent. So baby steps eventually take you up a mountain.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're kind of talking about too is it's really difficult with like a lot of social media today, right? You can go online and in like 2 seconds you can hear about people that are buying, 14 houses overnight, or are doing all these things that like it makes people feel like those little baby steps really are not enough. But everyone has to start out somewhere, and you're right, doing something is still better than doing nothing.
100%.
So put down Instagram and go take action.
So perfect. Where's your Instagram? Where's your Instagram handle? We're gonna Lady Landlords on Facebook. Where else can people find you?
Sure. So those that identify as female can find us in our Facebook group at Lady Landlords. Otherwise, everyone can find me on Instagram at Becky Nova 24. Or we also do have a Lady Landlords podcast as well. And that's really, once again, everybody can listen to that podcast. So just some easy ways to find me.
This whole interview, I forgot to mention the podcast. How many episodes is your podcast at, and what's your release schedule right now?
So I do once a week. I release new episodes every single Tuesday. We are in season 2, so that would mean I would have about 75 episodes. Oh my God. Would that really be 75 episodes? That's crazy. Yeah, the podcast came out of, whenever I see a common topic in Lady Landlords, I'm like, great, that'll be an episode. Like whatever I see, like everybody kind of talking about, or a lot of things that I felt like I was just answering similar questions over and over again. I said, let me be able to kind of create some content so people can get their answer without kind of having to come to the group and ask a similar question. Let's just get the real answer out there.
That's such a cool note that you're getting feedback and what to even talk about from your podcast, from your groups. Yeah. Facebook, for everybody out there, start a Facebook group. She started hers this way, March of 2024. I forget what shoulder you're on.
Yep. Which way? Yeah.
March of 2020, and now you're making a huge impact. And it's one of those things where, like, I tell people, like, if you want to make a difference, Facebook group, it might take a while. Like for me, I started mine in January and I got 2,200, but no discount to me. But I started from zero, just like you did.
Right.
So it's one of those things like, it's just making an impact, provide valuable content, be a creator, not a consumer, and make a difference in the world.
Right. And be passionate about it. Do something that you really enjoy. Do it because it makes you happy, not for money, not for fame. Do it because it makes you happy.
I listened to a podcast the other day, and it was one of those things where, like, being intentional, and using the word intentional means that you're really wanting to, with a great purpose, make something better. So being intentional, and it's such a powerful word, like intentional. Oh, I love that word. It's intentional, being very intentional. So I hope people found value today. Go check out her Facebook group, her podcast. If you need help and you're a lady, go check out Lady Landlords. We appreciate your time, Becky, and I hope to see you in a few years and see the big difference you can make.
Exactly. No, we're in touch now, right? Good people in touch with good people. So no, let's see what we can do together next.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
All right, thank you. Have a great day. We appreciate everybody coming on. I hope you found value in this episode. Please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Have a great day, y'all. See you on the next episode.